Last week on Blissfully Tea Drunk With. After doing about an hour's worth of labor in about half a day, I decided to run away from the tea farm as far as I could, so I ended up in the one place that everybody is just dying to vacation at. I ended up in St. Louis. I didn't end up here by mistake. I actually ended up here because it's one of the only places I could have free lodging at if I were just to buy my own Southwest airline ticket. I also ended up here to get clarification on my journey because in the 1904 World's Fair, the last greatest invention to impact the world of tea at a seismic level actually took place here in this city. Iced tea was invented. While trying to harbor the inspiration from great innovators that lived 100 years before me, I realized one thing. I not only ran away from the tea farm, I had ran away from my life, my home, everything that had meant everything to me in my blog and the world of tea. I had spent the last 3 years running from nonsensical bullshit just to end up in the same exact spot I was in before I started. I am on this journey, overwhelmed by the fact of being alone again and drinking tea by myself. Just like any other Hollywood rich kid making a self-funded documentary from daddy's money, I have to say I beg a question instead of ask it. But I did decide to ask the question, how did I end up here? To answer this question, we have to go back to the beginning. Hello! So, if you're watching this in the future, I am Cody, aka the Oolong Drunk. Don't ever like doing things where you can see my face, so try to have some anonymity to the blog. But for the election night, thank you for joining us for election coverage. Now, that may be a little misleading. We're not actually talking about the election. We're actually going to have tea time, talk about togetherness and tea friendships and the tea community, and maybe play a couple of fun games while we're at it. At this point in time, the world had been through one massive trauma, and on this night, everyone was experiencing another kind of trauma. So I decided to host a show on Instagram Live where 6 tea friends jumped on in 30-minute increments for 3 hours straight, and 6 outfit changes, so that way we could be together and enjoy the night and forget about the anxiety that was stressing us all. After being alone for so long, we were all finally together. When Christmas rolled around, we were all still in lockdowns because of COVID. Nothing had changed, and a lot of us were spending time alone. When lockdowns happened, a lot didn't change for me. I'd already lived a life very much lonely and isolated before, so it was actually nice that I could be on the same playing field as everyone else. So I decided to host another show, 3 hours, 6 guests, all back to back. Since this was my second go-around, I decided that I would be playful with it this time and try and do something silly. I gung fu brewed hops and drank it live on camera. Although it was disgusting, that's when I realized that I got to have fun with my audience. Then it dawned on me. I had something special here, and I was onto something. Hello everyone, my name's Cody, and I am the Oolong Drunk, and today we're gonna try and do our own little version today of having tea with other people, kind of in a similar talk show format, so to speak, like Graham Norton. The idea of the talk show came about when Instagram rolled out that you could do a live feature with 3 other people in the same sitting. That's when I decided that I could do a talk show with other people and not have to have them on and off again. We could just have them all on. Not only was I having tea with other people, I was able to bring people together from all over around the world. People who would probably never associate with each other if it wasn't for this otherwise. Our differences made us stronger, and we were able to connect. I was tackling this very seriously, but we did have fun and games, and we were pretty silly throughout. So, speaking of choking, Danielle, before we hang up here, are we ready to give our kill brew?
I wasn't getting the association at first. Yeah, I just poured it out.
You don't want me to tell you.
Okay, you can tell me. Hold on. Oh my god, she is so annoying.
I know, right? Just get rid of her. With season 1 over and season 2 coming up, I decided to not only double down on the humor, but also better structure the show itself. For this segment for Tea Closet, the Tea Closet, I have a list of thoughts, tea confessionals that our tea drinkers may be in denial for. But they can come out. It's okay. This is a safe space. We're all supported. They can come out and admit these things. They don't need to hide in the closet with these anymore. So you can finally admit, guys, that when you made this photo from Tea for Me, Please, her most liked photo on Instagram, it wasn't because tea is good.
I had to wear the shirt today
It's because green is so her color.
that's what it is.
So the next food I have pulled over here is, I couldn't resist. I have a McDonald's McGriddle.
Oh, no!
What was a McGriddle? I thought I would do the work for Neo's Japanese.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
That's the word.
I can't watch.
Oh, I literally cannot. So I'm missing.
Rest in peace.
Song can produce like a pinching. Oh, there we are.
Boy, that is a harsh resume.
Roxanne over here.
Well, hello there, everybody. Welcome to the sexiest tea hour in all of tea. This is Sexy Tea Time, where the bath and the tea stay hot.
Did that. Oh.
Hi, everyone. My name is Karen, and so these are real-life reviews of tea shops from other Karens, and I'm going to read some of them for you today because I can't have just been the only one to have bad customer service. Hold on. My daughter Kaylee is out there playing. I see her about to run in the street, and I don't believe in parenting my own kids because that's what the internet's for. But her iPad's in there charging. Kaylee, dear, Kaylee, get off the street. Hey, Kaylee. It's like the Wayans Brothers white chicks, I swear. After being performative for so long, I then realized that I was not vulnerable with my audience. After several months of planning, I decided to open up and talk about my story in a very meaningful way. And this is a cup of tea for a person who took their own life because they felt like that they didn't even have the option to come out of the closet. And taking their life was the better option. And this is for every person who has survived a suicide attempt and had to rebuild every aspect of their life because being their self was not good enough. No one and not one child should have to feel like taking their own life is the better option in life because they are who they are and they love who they love. After taking a short break, I came back for a third season. In fact, this was the trailer for season 3. For the season 3 premiere, I did the hardest thing I had ever done in my entire career. I live interviewed a displaced and dishomed Ukrainian ceramist. Versus left here even. A lot of people in the West have included their Unfortunately, Facebook started rolling back the Instagram Live feature on Instagram, causing the show to crash several times and losing several episodes. After having celebrity guests on, I decided I needed something more reliable. So I moved to YouTube. Today on Blissfully Tea Drunk With. Because of filming the show beforehand, I was not only able to have a really cool introduction and theme song, I was able to film inside of a tea factory and also schedule out recordings and include a wide variety of people who couldn't make the lives otherwise. I even did another fundraiser for the Trevor Project with Snarky Tea, as well as have other guests on and interview different people from around the world. While tackling serious issues, we were also able to have fun and also reach a wider audience, and also people could go back and watch more accessibly and easier. Then, something magical happened. The restrictions from COVID were easing up, and I was able to travel to California to go to my best friend's wedding and serve tea. I even filmed the finale of Season 4 at the Bixby Bridge and other parts of California. The talk show was at the height of its game, and so was I. I was the most confident I had ever been in this project, and it was going better than I had ever expected. Not only did I get to share a cup of tea with some of my friends virtually, I got to travel to some of these places and have tea with them in person. Even the sheer thought of having tea alone just felt so foreign by this point. It was something I had lived in an entirely different lifetime. It was no longer my reality. Not many people would say that Portland is their top tourist destination. I mean, the streets are not showered in gold. I mean, in some parts they are. But I finally got to meet other tea friends I've had for years and got to meet them for the very first time. Then something else incredible happened. Not only did I get to have a whole row of seats by myself on a Southwest flight, but I got to partner up with another tea company who hosted the finale party for the 4th season. I got to see a new city for the very first time and meet other tea friends I had known for over half a decade. For all the tea friends I had known in so many places, I got to meet them in person, have tea with them in person, and just enjoy each other's company for the sake of it. Just to think, all this started because a lonely gay boy in the middle of nowhere, Missouri decided to have tea in front of his cell phone on Instagram Live. Then, I returned home. However, this time I didn't take a break. In fact, my career had gone so far that I was actually invited to Las Vegas to speak as one of the keynote speakers for World Tea Expo in Las Vegas. I had gone a year previously as a tea blogger, but this year I wasn't going just as a blogger. I wasn't going just as an observer of the industry. I was going as someone who was the industry. I got up in front of the world of tea, talked about who I was, and gave an hour-long lecture about financing in the world of tea. I was an industry leader in my own right. And with the help of other people, I got here. I made it. Or so I thought. What was supposed to be a career-defining moment ended up being a career-defining blunder. It wasn't until I got in front of the industry that I realized that I was not viewed as quite the same as others in the industry. In fact, I was below everybody. In fact, I was told by one of the industry professionals and expo organizers that bloggers were only there to take free stuff. My entire career was belittled. I was told that I couldn't get anything. In fact, I wasn't even asking for anything. They only covered 1/3 of my travel expenses for showing up. I was out of pocket for this trip. I was in debt for this career-defining moment. And I only showed up to not only just throw away where I came from, but just to be belittled by the industry itself. By being told that my career was worthless, it was rooted in greed. That I was below everyone else because I had no real intention in growing the tea community. I was with my friends, but I had to face the reality that I was used. I was taken advantage of. I helped make money for another organization that viewed me as dirt, that my career didn't matter and had no meaning. I had left that trip feeling the most insulted and degraded that I had ever felt in my entire career. But with months of writing and 6 months of filming, the show had to go on. Okay, I just have to stop because you said I was gatekeeping tea. How exactly am I gatekeeping tea? I'm trying to be vulnerable here and sharing my experiences as a gamer for my greatest fear.
Cody, you're being a snob, okay?
Okay. Our first call was like so long ago. I can't believe this just like it's finally coming to the surface. And after all the hard work I put into
The fuck
this,
is this? What is this?
it's the tea cake. Open it. What is it?
What the hell is this?
It's also famously known for its gay community. You also have this really great tea blend called Proud as Fuck. So I made it here today and I thought I would drink it. Oh, God, that's not. God, that tasted like ass. Although the show doubled down on its humor more than ever, I ran into several issues. One, it took 9 months to schedule 7 panels. Guests scheduled and rescheduled and canceled so many times I didn't think the show would actually take off the ground for a 5th season. The pandemic was easing up even further and more people were spending time in their real life than they were in their virtual life. I even faced a worse issue. I had planned out these panels and I had planned out the joke questions and the comedy bits months in advance prior to filming, and yet because I had doubled down so much on the humor aspect and being in character, I was accused of doing drugs. I was accused of having a mental break, and I was accused of being so many things that my narrative escaped me. What was even worse than that? So many of these friends talked among each other about my supposed new drug addiction, and yet not one of these friends reached out to me to see if I was okay. I was drinking tea with friends, and yet it didn't have meaning anymore. I was back where I started. I was familiar with the life of lonely. Right after graduating high school, I was kicked out of the house and made homeless because of coming out as gay. Then shortly after, I was rear-ended by a truck and thrown onto the other side of traffic where I was hit 3 more times, thus suffering a fractured neck and a head concussion that lasted several years. I somewhat recovered. I was in physical therapy for the better part of a year, and not everything was back to where it should have been. After falling on more hardship because of this, I decided to move from Texas and go somewhere where I could recover. I moved to Missouri. I did a lot of things in Missouri, such as reveal what I finally looked like on my tea blog for the first time, which was great because a lot of you thought I was female, or have tea on the radio, which was another great experience, or I got to go to the Midwest Tea Festival and speak as a tea blogger. My father died when I was 14, and I was estranged from the rest of my family, so being able to do things on your own was great. But doing things on your own like that, having no place to go, having no place to call home and no one to call family, it created a lonely life. And it created the kind of life where I could sit down and have a cup of tea and then eventually take photos of tea, share the photos of tea, and connect with other people who drank tea as well. Then eventually, I got to a place where I could drink tea with other people and try to create the chosen family that I always wished I had, and found safety in friends. I started having tea with my audience, and eventually, well, you know where this goes. However, I did leave out one part. Remember whenever I said that people were accusing me of doing drugs and having a mental break? Well, it wasn't entirely true. I did have a mental break. I did move from Missouri to Colorado because I was disinvited to one of my best friend's weddings because they said me showing up would make their Christian wedding not a Christian wedding. Surprisingly, this happened a second time with another friend as well. I moved because I couldn't handle not only that happening again, but I couldn't handle losing myself again. I moved so I could recontrol my own narrative and regain it. And while doing so, I ended up having tea again, alone, by myself. So I sat there in St. Louis after running away from everything and wondered, where did my virtual community go? Where did all of my friendships go? I'd climbed so many mountains in the past that I decided to climb another mountain for the symbolic representation for the ending of the show. Plus, look at that view. While at the end of this journey, I realized one important thing. A lot of the friendships I had made actually started in the middle of the pandemic, and now that the pandemic had ended and restrictions had lifted, a lot of people went back to the lives that they had before. That meant for almost all of them, they were getting offline and they're going back to their life in person and enjoying the in real life moment. However, that meant that everything was going away and I had to go back to my life before the pandemic, which my life before the pandemic wasn't really any different than my life during or after. By the way, did you notice how there was no music in this entire episode? That was very intentional. That was supposed to symbolize the silence in between the music that I experienced when it came to drinking tea with friends. However, that didn't mean I had to be predispositioned to go back to a life of silence that I had before. Everything is new, and I have a brand new start, and this new chapter can take me anywhere that I want it to take me. I might have lost my narrative there for a bit, but I am finding it again, and I am going to determine where I go next. And as far as the talk show ending, well, the talk show isn't in a timeline that exists anymore. The space needed to carry on this chapter just will never go back. It won't ever be the same that it was before. And that's the thing, everything will keep changing. So I decided to go to the edge of the Mississippi River and pour out my last cup of tea and end this chapter. Hi, my name is Cody. I'm also known as the Oolong Drunk, and I once had a 5-season talk show. And I'm gonna take the memory, the loss, and the love, and take it with me.